Hey, it's Patrick from XPression, and I'm here to show you a new feature in XPression Maps 3.0, the Safe Title function. I'm working in XPression Maps Designer, and as you can see here, I've got a map that's open, I've got a basic globe, and we've got the typical things that you would see for Safe Title. If you come look at it on the outside, 5% in from the screen is what we would actually call Action Safe, and then from there, another 5% or 10% of the screen would be what we would call Title Safe. I have, for the maps that I'm using Bing's logo, I have to have a Bing logo on it if I'm using Bing Maps. Over in the right corner, I've got the attributions. These are things that you can't turn off. If you're using the attributions, they need to be present. These are all the providers that give the content over to whomever, whether this is Google or Bing or whomever. This stuff does need to be present. The Bing logo only needs to be present when you're using a maps style from Bing. Now, what I want you to realize is sometimes you use a map in a full screen function, sometimes you might put it into an over-the-shoulder graphic, and when you do that, your over-the-shoulder graphic may be of a different size in a different dimension. So you want to accommodate for that, because the last thing you want to have happen is something that fits into that over-the-shoulder graphic not actually properly fit. So what I'm going to do here, if you look down at the bottom underneath the viewport, you can see there's a function here for Safe Title, and to the right of it there's a little gear. If I click on the gear, it brings up the Safe Title menu, and I can go and create a new one. So I'm going to create one here because I'm doing this for late local news, and we're going to use an over-the-shoulder graphic, and I know what the dimensions are, so I'm going to do this pretty quickly. So I'm going to click New, and I'm going to call it LLNOTS for the name, and I know where those boundaries are. The left and right are at about 35% of the screen. So I'm going to change that to 35, and you'll see that that brings the Action Safe and the Title Safe in accordingly. And you'll see that comes in. If I move this over to the side, you'll see this all got skinnier. And my lower, or the bottom of my Safe Title is at 16% of the screen. I just know this because I built this whole set of graphics earlier, so I know where this all goes. So 1.6, put that in. And my top side of the screen is 21%, so I'll put that in. And normally Safe Titles to keep things from popping off the edge of the screen. I'm going to just assume that that's not the case, and I also know that my over-the-shoulder graphic has a spot for a title bar which may or may not appear. So I'm going to do two things. My Safe Title, I'm going to set it at 0% because my Safe Title and my Action Safe are the same thing, because the boundaries of that OTS are not going to change. The next thing I want to alter is where the attribution sits. I'm going to leave that alone because, as you can see, it automatically adjusted. It's sitting in the bottom right corner of my window. My Bing logo is also adjusted, but I want to change that. I want to keep that over on the left margin. I'm going to tweak it in just a little bit, believe it or not. Tiny little percentage, but I want to move it way up to the top of the screen. So instead of 16%, this is going to be at 67%. Now I'm going to take that, I'm going to mark that as done. Now what you've got here, you can notice I've got a whole different Safe Title marker here, and where this becomes important, let's say I'm going to do a map that uses the state of Colorado. If I just put Colorado in there in the location, have it go over to it, and I add the shape information for the state of Colorado. So I'm going to select Colorado in my search results, and I'm also going to come down here to my search related shapes for Colorado. I'm going to double click it, and that will add that as long as I've got the state and region section highlighted here. I'm going to zoom out on my screen just a little bit, and you'll notice the state of Colorado fits nicely in the full screen, but if this is an over-the-shoulder position, then it wouldn't fit very well. So now I've got my over-the-shoulder version here, and you can see that would be the correct use case. And also I've got all my layers and show information layers turned on. So I'm going to click the show information layers on the right side, and I'm going to turn off the components that I don't need. So that's how this works, because if I change this back to a regular full screen, you'll see that now this is kind of going to look a little puny in there, but there's a reason why I'm doing it, because I may want to use this map and it doesn't matter how I'm going to design it, but I've got to make sure that it fits in the box for my journalist to work with. So now that you've seen this, let's take a break and let's go see how the journalist uses these very same functions. All right, we're on the journalist side. We're in Inception News, and I've got the ROS XPression ActiveX plugin open, and I want to build some map graphics. So I've got a couple templates here. Now, my templates have some things in common. I want you to notice on the bottom, I've got a preview image. My graphics package has a lower third that's always on screen, a bug that's always on screen, and a ticker that's always on screen. So I want to make sure that I'm not covering anything when I build a graphic. So that's been put in as a preview graphic, and you can see I've got a temporary graphic here that also accommodates to it. So I'm going to choose my Open MAM plugin in Maps, and that will launch the XPression Maps MOS plugin, or we also call it the web client, and that'll show up inside of my newsroom system. And here it is. So I'm going to cheat here a little bit. I'm going to use a template to do specifically what I want to do, which is just still graphics. I'm going to choose this one here. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to search for Colorado. You can see that it comes up. I find that in the search. I'm going to click Add Shape. I'm going to tell it Colorado, add shape here, click Done. I'm going to leave the default shape that's in there. I'm going to zoom this back a little bit, and you can see that I've got the state of Colorado. Now, if I fill the screen, that's pretty good. So I'm going to call this Colorado. I need to save the graphic, and this one is a still image. You can see that it's got a Colorado. You can see that it's got a picture rather than a movie can up there. I'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to move this up just a little bit. So, wrong button here, so I can drag it back in. Let me pop that back open. I just want to drag this window up a little bit so that I can get to the input fields on my XPression MOS template. And you can see there it is. So I'm going to literally take that bar graph, which is our workflow icon, it's our placeholder. I'm going to drop it into my template graphic, and you can see that it's rendering, and it will pop that in place. Takes a second, and you can see that I've got my Colorado map in my graphic, but you can also see that the bottom was somewhat obscured by my lower third, and sometimes people complain about that. Now I'm going to come back into my web tool, and you can see that I've got something here called Safe Title. I'm going to click and turn that on, and you can see that I'm in regular Safe Title, but you're looking there and go, well, that doesn't quite fit. Well, I made a couple safe titles. I'm going to do this one first. I made one called LLN full screen for local news, and you can see that's about the same thing here. So I'm going to zoom that back, and again, I'm just rolling my scroll wheel a little bit, and I'll pop that up a little bit. And again, you're also seeing the information layers. We'll talk about that in a separate video. I'm just going to turn those off. These are just for me to see them as the maps creator. And I'm going to resave my graphic. It's still going to be called Colorado. So I'm clicking on the Save button. I'm going to click Save. I'm going to grab that workflow icon, which is the barcode. I'm going to click it and drag that placeholder barcode with my workflow and drop it into my map. And you can see it's rendering, and you'll see what will happen here in a second. It'll pop up, and now you can see that my map of Colorado appears properly, and it's not obscured by my lower third. Now I'm going to do a little bit of journalistic magic here. In the XPression MOS plugin, if you hold down the Shift key and then you click on a different template, what you'll see is it will replicate everything and move all the assets where it knows where to move them. And what I want you to notice, remember we built that OTS template, LLN OTS safe title. If you look at the graphic, you'll notice the state of Colorado doesn't fit there because the way this particular template is built. So I'm going to bring open that maps template again, and I'm going to change my LLN full screen to LLN OTS. I'm going to change that, and what you'll notice is, well, look at that, it's too big. I'm going to scroll out here using my scroll wheel on my mouse, and I'm going to make it so the state of Colorado fits nicely in my OTS graphic. And that's just a little big. And again, this is something that your journalist is going to learn to decide. It's a little bit of creative license that they'll take, and we did put a center icon in here. You can see the arrow, it's kind of small, but it's between the O and the R, and that's probably not a bad place for it to be. I'm going to resave the graphic because, again, what you save is what you get. So I'm going to save over the old Colorado version, and when I drag that barcode placeholder icon, which is my workflow tool, and drop it in the OTS placeholder field, you'll see that it'll render for the map, and then give it a second and it pops into place, and look at that, it fits. And if I was using something that had a Bing logo, the Bing logo would appear up above. I would see where that would all go, and everything would be great. But that's why you use the Safe Title tool, and that's the strength of it, because you're now enabling your journalists to use Safe Title the same way that you would, and they get a good visual representation. And if they don't do it, it's not going to break anything, but they'll get an idea what will and won't fit.